Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Tigers Live. I'm your host, Francis Carlotta, coming at y'all after the Memphis Tigers have bowed out of the NCAA Tournament a couple weeks ago. We're now in the Final Four of the NCAA Tournament. All 4 1 seeds are playing in San Antonio tonight, Saturday night. We're almost there, almost at the end of the finish line for the NCAA college basketball, men's college basketball season.
Yeah,
so it's a good time to do a recap of the Memphis Tigers 2024-2025 season as a whole. And as always, I'm joined by Kenny Stubblefield, the man. Roman will be here in a moment as well. Kenny, how you doing, bro?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm actually really excited about this Final Four. I think this Final Four is I know it's chalky as all hell, but I dig it. Like, I dig the these are clearly, I think, for me, the 4 best teams in the for the entirety of the season. And so I always kind of enjoy the Cinderella stories. I enjoy the teams that it's kind of what makes the NCAA tournament so unique, right? Is that any given moment, any given day, any team can beat any team, and a team can make a run like the FAU team a few years ago. And I can appreciate that. But part of me, what I love about even the NBA playoffs is that you're always going to get in a 7-game series. Most of the time, the best team's going to win, right? Like most of the time, the team that is the better team, the more talented team, the better coached team is going to win a playoff series. And so you tend to most of the time get the best teams in the NBA playing against each other in the finals. And I appreciate that because then you can walk away from it going, we know who the best team is. And I think that's what this Final Four is it's clearly we know. I think once this weekend is done, this Final Four weekend is done, we are going to know who is the best team in college basketball throughout the entirety of the year and specifically throughout this tournament. So I'm excited about it, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think all two of these games, I'm going to say all 4 of them, there are 4 teams. All 2 of these games,
right,
I think are going to be awesome. Just great basketball. I think they're all going to come down to the wire. There's great matchups on both sides of the ball in both games. You got superstar power on all these teams. You have incredible coaches leading all 4 of these teams as well.
Yeah.
This is great for all basketball fans. This is a fantastic Final Four that I think is going to live up to the hype. Kenny, I'll ask you this question kind of a little off topic, but how do you feel about the discourse about, the NCAA tournament is now going to be so chalky, so really blue blood heavy because of this day and age of NIL? And is that a bad thing for college basketball? I would love to hear your thoughts.
I will. I'm going to reserve my judgment on if it's a bad or a good thing, because it's been 1 year, right?
Sure.
Like, it's only been 1 year. And so I think let's allow it to kind of play itself out a little bit. I do think that there are some things that are coming down the pipe and related to NIL stuff that maybe will even the playing field a little bit. Will maybe kind of cause it to level itself out, that it's not just a glorified unrestricted free agency every single year, which is what it's been for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pass judgment on what that will do to the NCAA tournament, the chalkiness, the blue bloods, the separation. Like, I do think there is going to be some levels of separation. To what degree, I don't know. And so I want to reserve judgment on it for a couple of seasons and just see kind of how it plays itself out. Because does this mean just because this 1 year there's not these Cinderella stories, does it necessarily mean that that's going to be the storyline every single year? I would say no. I would say I don't think that's the case. Could it happen? Absolutely. If it does, will I have thoughts? Yes. But I want to reserve that because I don't want to pass judgment on something that just happened for the first time this year, really, technically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I think an inverse to the argument of people who are saying that this is bad for college basketball, I think when in this day and age of NIL, it's proof that there's so much talent across all of
Yes.
college basketball.
Yes.
And
yes.
you see, and the upsets that we've seen in the past are proof of that talent being so widespread across college basketball, playing for mid-majors, playing for schools that we never would have thought about it, until it came to be the NCAA tournament. Just because the upsets didn't come this year at the level that we've seen in the past does not mean that NIL is the reason why, or it's because
Right.
players are leaving these teams. No, it's if anything, it should prove to people that you can look at a guy from, I'm just going to say a random school, North Dakota State, just a random ass school, and say that this dude's worth like $2 million because, or a few $100,000 because they're that good at basketball.
Right.
And now these dudes are now being able to get the worth that they should have been getting in the past, but now they are able to get it because they are actually really good at ball. So I think another way to look at it is, in this day and age of NIL, you're seeing the proof that there's such a wide amount of talent across all of college basketball. And it just happened that this year it was a more chalk than usual. It happens, chalk happens sometimes. It is what it is. So I think what you said, Ken, is also totally fair. It's 1 year. It shouldn't be some indictment of NIL and that college basketball's it's going into the gutter. Like, no.
The transfer portal. I will say this. Like, and we're gonna bring Roman on because I'd love to get his thoughts on it too. But I will say this about the chalkiness of this Final Four. You are absolutely hey, there you are.
Hey, Roman.
You are absolutely going to see ratings gold for this Final Four. This Final Four is going to be, I would suspect, one of the most watched Final Fours in a very long time for college basketball because of these four teams. Because quite literally, these four teams have been the number one teams in the country all year. And so I think the matchups that you're going to see are, and so like, will the networks not like what's going to happen this weekend? They're going to love it. They're going to be absolutely over the moon about it. But I'm like I said, and Roman, what we were talking about is just basically like the chalkiness of this Final Four, this bracket as a whole, this tournament as a whole. Is it a bad thing? Is it kind of an indictment on the impact that NIL and the transfer portal are having on college basketball? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I think this is simply a different year that's kind of an outlier. I mean, this is the first time since 2008, oddly enough, when Memphis was the number one overall seed in the tournament, that all four number one seeds made the Final Four. I think it's just kind of like that year in the sense that the 4-1 seeds this year were just so talented and they separated themselves from the rest of the country that it's not exactly a shock to see all four seeds make the Final Four. That was something that a lot of people talked about heading into the tournament. And I had 2 1 seeds making it when I did my bracket, and I usually don't even have that many. And
who did you have getting out? Was it Florida? Did you have Florida getting out first? One of the Florida team getting out first?
The Final Four that I had, I believe, was Houston, Auburn, St. John's, and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's still a pretty talented Final Four in of itself, but all 4 1 seeds making it, I think, is pretty remarkable there. But I don't really think this is a huge indictment on like the transfer portal or the impact of NIL or anything like that. I think a bigger impact when it comes to transfer portal and the NIL is what you're seeing in the AAC and other leagues like that, where I think a big reason a lot of these teams give Memphis trouble, and Penny Hardaway's talked about this before, is because teams like Tulane can go get guys like Rowan Rumbaugh from Georgetown, guys like Caleb Banks from Indiana, dudes who in most cases aren't making that much of an impact at their Power 5 schools. A lot of guys before, they would go to Power 5 leagues and
waste away.
They wouldn't even do much, right?
Yeah.
They'd sit on the bench for 4 years, maybe play a little bit in their senior year, that kind of thing, because programs like Kentucky and Duke and other blue bloods would recruit 5-star freshmen and things of that nature, and these other guys would never get to play, but now they're getting to transfer down to, mid-major schools and that kind of deal, and they're getting their opportunity, and they're making these other teams maybe not, better because they're still losing teams, but they're more talented and more difficult to deal with. So I think that's a bigger impact and a bigger change that we've seen as a result of NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think those are all great points, Roman. And we'll talk. There are pros and cons to everything in life. There are pros and cons to the transfer portal, pros and cons to NIL, obviously. And we'll get the transfer portal news, especially when it comes to the Memphis Tigers, in a moment. We will definitely get into it, y'all. But I do want to start talking about just recapping the Memphis Tigers season as a whole. So just very, very quick recap. 29-6 overall is the record the Memphis Tigers finished with. 16-2 in the AAC. AAC regular season and conference tournament champions. PJ Haggerty won the Player of the Year. Penny Hardaway won the Coach of the Year for the AAC. Memphis had 3 players in the first team All AAC as well. They finished as the 5th seed in the NCAA Tournament, the highest in Penny Hardaway's era. They lost in the first round, 78-70 to the 12th seed Colorado State, without Memphis's starting and backup point guard. Still a loss. So with all that being said, I want to ask both of y'all, let's start broad. What are y'all's thoughts on the 2024-2025 season as a whole?
I think it's nothing short of a success overall, especially considering what Memphis was coming into from last season, the 2023-24 season. They bounced back in pretty much every way you could realistically ask for back in October, right? They won the AAC regular season championship. They won the conference tournament title. They got a top 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, and I think would have put themselves into a real position to make a run at the second weekend and perhaps beyond, if not for Tyrese Hunter suffering that left foot injury in the AAC tournament. I know that's, excuses or whatever and hypotheticals, what if, that kind of thing, but that's just the reality. I think Memphis is perfectly capable of beating Colorado State if they have Tyrese Hunter. I think they're perfectly capable of beating a Maryland team that needed a buzzer beater to beat Colorado State if they had Tyrese Hunter. The path in the event that Memphis was healthy was set up pretty well for them, I think.
Yep.
I mean, traveling cross country to Seattle is difficult no matter what, but the field that they ultimately got, I think, would have been a phenomenal draw for a healthy Memphis team.
Yep.
Because Colorado State is good, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Memphis at its full strength. I don't. I think Memphis would have beaten Maryland. That would have been a tough game, but I think they would have beaten Maryland because Memphis, they don't have much depth, but they have more than Maryland. Maryland is a team that's completely relying on its starting 5. Completely. And that would have caught up to it at some point, I believe. And I think Memphis would have gotten them there. So when you consider those factors, it really is a phenomenal season for Memphis, a great redemption story for Penny Hardaway that he now looks to really build off of heading into next year. And now, I mentioned this when moments after Memphis' season came to an end in the NCAA tournament, you now are no longer dealing with the questions of, okay, what is it going to take to, get over the conference hurdle and that kind of thing. The only real obstacle left in Penny Hardaway heading into his 8th season. That's unbelievable to say. Penny Hardaway heading into his 8th year.
That's crazy. I love it.
That's so season, wild. 8th season. Yeah, but either way, the big obstacle that's kind of only left for him now is what is it going to take to get to the second weekend? What is it going to take to finally get back to the Sweet 16 and truly get Memphis basketball back to where many think it should be? And a season like this, I think, does set a nice foundation for trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm having some internet issues over here because of the storm. I don't know if Roman is too. Francis is in beautiful, sunny San Diego, so he's not having any issues. We've been rained and stormed on for the last 3 or 4 days, and my internet's acting goofy. If I do go out, I apologize. But I'm here. Can y'all hear me? Okay?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah. quickly, all y'all listening, please stay safe. Hope
Yeah.
whatever's going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
please stay safe. I know y'all did an episode where Kenny, your power went out, and it was just Roman for like a solid 15 minutes on Tigers Live.
Roman's
That
the
was
man,
incredible.
dude. He did it. He killed that episode. I was watching it on my phone while I was trying to get the power back on in the house. And yeah, shout out to Roman. I don't live in the boondocks. Like, I live in Collierville, but for some reason I went 4 hours the other morning without power. I was supposed to do the $2 sports show with Rusty Buckets, and literally the power turned on like 3 minutes before you're supposed to go live. So anyway, it's been a wild couple of days for power over here at the Stubblefield house, but I'll say I hope I'm good today. The internet, I think, is doing okay now. But anyway, yeah, I came into the season, just my thoughts, the broad thoughts on this season. I came into the season with 3 goals, and one of them was to actually really, I guess.
Nope. Just as he says it.
Oh my God!
Am I back?
You spoke it. Oh, okay. There we go.
Spoke it into existence. My first goal was I wanted Memphis to win. I wanted Penny Hardaway to win the regular season AAC championship. So check that one off the box. Obviously, go into the conference tournament and win the conference tournament. But at the same time, my overarching goal was I wanted them to go into the conference tournament not worried about what their situation was going to be like with the NCAA tournament, right? That they were already safely in, that it was a matter of seeding, and that it was that's what that was all about. And they did that. And I think my goals were lowered because of last year and because of what we expect and what we think is going to happen. What happened last year with the team. And I think it was okay to kind of lower the goals and say, let's just take this thing step by step, right? Because if you remember, one of the things, and Penny's talked about this over the years, he came into college basketball thinking that his basketball IQ, his basketball acumen, that his relationships, that they were just going to come in and they were going to dominate, right? They were going to dominate college basketball. And I think he learned very quickly, and I think Tiger fans had to recalibrate their expectations that it's a process, right? Like there's steps to this thing, like skipping those steps. I think we can be frank about it and say Penny Hardaway, due to his name, due to his popularity, due to his stature in the city of Memphis, skipped a lot of steps to become the University of Memphis head basketball coach. And so we've seen, and I don't think that's an indictment on Penny Hardaway. I think that's just the reality of the situation. But what we've seen over the last few years is him kind of growing in that, kind of with the job in hand, taking those step by step. And I think it was okay for us to say, you know what, like, let's take a step back from our unrealistic expectations of Final Fours and Sweet 16 or Elite Eights every single year and just reach the goals that are attainable right now. And so he did that this year. It was a successful season. And I agree with Roman. I think the next step for him is to figure out how, whatever it looks like, to take a deep run into the NCAA tournament, however you get there. And I think he'll learn that. And I think we have our ideas on what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, I think overall it was a successful season.
Yeah, I'm totally with y'all. There's not too much for me to add on because we've talked about it on the last Tigers Live, and y'all talked about it many times. I've said it on Twitter. Yeah, there's nothing that anyone could tell me to convince me that this season was anything but a success. Last season, for me, was the real failure of the Penny Hardaway era. And if you want to look at this season and call it a failure just because they lost in the first round of Colorado State when they were a 5 seed and Colorado State was a 12, well, that's just BS. Like that makes no sense because last season was the failure. Letting go of the rope, finishing 5th in the AAC, playing with zero pride, zero give a damn to play for the Memphis Tigers. That's the failure. This season was really the opposite of that. Winning the conference title in regular season and the conference title, you could tell that these players really cared about playing for this team, playing for Penny Hardaway, playing for the city of Memphis, playing for each other. They all genuinely liked each other. They all got along. They all clicked. It was literally the 180 of last season, literally. And so
if you're outside of Memphis, and you hear Francis say that, you're probably like, "What, dude? That's like elementary stuff." Bro, last year was the exact opposite of that. And so when Francis is saying that, like, it's because of how badly last year went with the team. Yep. And so this year, those are things to celebrate. Those are things to go, okay, things are moving in the right direction. Sorry to interrupt you. I know there's probably people that don't listen to that aren't Tiger fans that don't understand what we're talking about here, but that's the reality of the situation.
Right. And I think that's the context a lot of national people or people who just look at the Tigers on a very surface level view. That's a context people don't have when it comes to this team and Penny as a coach and what we consider as this season to be a success and why we consider it to be a success. Right. I had 4 keys to the year entering the season, and I just want to run through them briefly and touch on how the Tigers ended up doing. So 2 of them were related to defense. One was just straight up defensive rating. They were 104th in defensive rating according to Ken Palm in the 2023-2024 season. This year they finished 43rd, so that's a genuine marked improvement in defensive rating for the Tigers. Also, 3-point defense was a big thing for me as well. Last season they were not good, 188th in the country in opponent 3-point percentage. This season they were 91st in opponent 3-point percentage. Not great, but it's still, again, a marked improvement. The 2 big ones on offense that I had that I think were the real reasons why the Tigers didn't reach the successes, besides not having the starting point guards, but a big thing that was holding them back, and we've talked about it all year. One was limit turnovers. The other one was sharing the rock. Well, Memphis in 23-24, 298th in turnovers per game, averaging 13.1. This season, they were worse. They were somehow worse in turning the ball over. 333rd, averaging 13.9 turnovers per game. Oh my God. So they were somehow worse than last season. And I wanted them to be higher in assists per game as well. They were 115th in 2023-24, 94th in this most recent season. So improvement, not the improvement I was looking for, but it's also hard to make a marked improvement in assists per game when you don't have the ball on offense, right, because you're turning it over. So it's hard to improve your assist numbers if you don't have the basketball. So that's basketball 101.
Yeah.
So those are the turnovers for me, the biggest thing that held them back. We don't need to rehash anything, but that's just how I felt. Those are my 4 keys entering the year. That's how they ended up doing in those 4 keys. So I do want to ask y'all, with everything that we've discussed, we all agree that this season was overall a success. And I think that should be the sentiment that every Tigers fan should have when you look at the 2024-2025 season. So I'm going to ask both of y'all, what is the state of the Memphis Tigers men's basketball program under Penny Hardaway? Kind of asking y'all to give a State of the Union address for this program. As we look ahead, as we enter the offseason with basically a brand new roster trying to enter the portal, what is the state of the program in y'all's eyes?
I'd say they are back to pretty much where they are 2 years ago. They're a program that's getting there. They're in the position, but they still have yet to make the jump. That's where they were 2 years ago. And then the 23-24 season kind of set that trajectory back a little bit. And they've now gotten back to this position where, what is it going to take? That's what they're asking themselves. What is it going to take to get back to the Sweet 16? What is it going to take to get back to the second weekend and subsequently put yourself in position to make a Final Four and possibly a national championship? Because that is the kind of program that Memphis obviously aspires to be. That's the type of program it's been for most of its history. Don't let the last 16 years fool you. This really is kind of a weird time in Memphis basketball where it's not at the top of the sport. And it's kind of what we talked about before. They have to find that right formula to potentially, get back in that position. And, this offseason is obviously going to be a very crucial proponent in doing that. Can they find the right fits in the transfer portal? Can they retain certain key players? We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. So, yeah, I mean, this offseason, like all others, is extremely massive for what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, if I had to give a state of the Tiger basketball program, I would say that it is. I think on the basketball side of things are trending upwards. Right, you've got good players. You got obviously a head coach who is learning and growing, who has a status and a just his name in terms of being able to bring players into the program. I think he's got a really solid assistant coaching staff who are all returning this next year, which again
Huge.
might seem
That's
weird.
huge.
Might seem weird for non-Memphis fans, but for Memphis fans, when you say the entire coaching staff is coming back next year, that's something to celebrate, right? Like that's something to say, this is a big deal. The continuity side of things is really at a good place, I think, for this Tiger program. So I would say on the basketball side of things, the Tiger basketball program is in a good place and it's trending upwards. Here's where I'm concerned, Francis, Roman. This is where I'm concerned. Is what is the state of how this athletic department is adjusting to the new era of college sports, right? Like the NIL, the transfer portal, the conference realignment ideas, like
the revenue sharing,
the revenue sharing,
yeah,
all of those things. Like, is the Memphis athletic department, are they reacting or are they proactive to the things that are changing in college sports? I am more concerned about that than I am about where the Tiger basketball program is, because I think it's in good hands. And I think the Tiger athletic department is in good hands. But my question would be, is what are they doing to be proactive about to not be left behind, right? Like to not be left behind in all of these things that are happening in college sports. There's just a lot that is happening in college sports that's changing the entire landscape of, the power conferences are basically siloing themselves away from everybody else. And it feels like there is a very clear the haves and the have-nots. And I am desperately concerned that Memphis is not doing enough as an athletic department to be in the haves instead of the have-nots. Right? Like that's what concerns me. The second part that I would say is the Tiger basketball program has always been the city's team. It's always been the draw in the city. Even when the Grizzlies have been here, the Tiger basketball fans have shown up and showed out for Tiger basketball. We are on a trend of Tiger fans not showing up to games at home. And I am concerned about that. Like what needs to happen to get Tiger fans to come to games, right? Like, and so I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answers for that. I will just say those are the two things that like when I think about Tiger athletics as a whole, those things scare me or like fill me with more dread than anything that has to do with the actual product on the court with basketball or the product on the field with football. They have two really good coaches in their high major sports in football and basketball. They have a lot of things happening in both of those programs. Is the athletic department adjusting well to this new era of college sports? And how do we get fans to show up? Those are the two things that I'm concerned about right now. And so there's a part of me that does feel a little bit concerned about where Tiger athletics is.
Yeah, I mean the overall state of the athletic program as a whole, yeah, that can certainly be better. I mean, we're not going to air out all the dirty laundry here because there's just no point in doing so. But I mean, that there are certainly things that you hear when you're in, our positions that certainly will, give rise to certain concerns or whatever, especially with, on Monday, we're going to find out whether or not this NCAA versus House settlement is going to pass and going to be integrated in. And in the event that it is, that will open up the door for revenue sharing, which would begin on July 1st this year. And that is going to completely change the game for pretty much everybody.
Yep.
Memphis, among any other, lots of other schools, they're going to change the way they're doing NIL in all likelihood. Now, again, I'm still somewhat skeptical of how it's all really going to, play out based off of what I've heard. But still, some huge decisions on that end are coming up for Memphis, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, Grizz Girl over here. She's and I agree with her. Thank you. Grizz Girl is one of the most loyal listeners to all the things, all the live shows, everything that we do with Bluff City Media. So we really appreciate it. But she says it's the AAC competition, access to games on TV, and good seats at the Forum are very high. Plus the economy. All that is true. 100%. Yeah, I do not disagree with you. So when we talked about the idea of conference realignment, right? The haves and the have-nots. Like, what does Memphis need to do to be back in those conversations to be in a conference where, number one, the competition is just better, the financial ramifications are better, and then yes, I agree. She said the access to games on TV. Yeah, it is so important. It is so important to have Tiger fans at games. Yes, I get it. Access to TV, access to games on TV makes it easier just to stay at home and watch, and that's all well and good. But getting to the games is important too. And I do think, and Roman and Francis, y'all might be able to help me understand this, but there was a big announcement made by the athletic department about the third level, the third terrace level of the FedEx Forum next year is going to be shut down, and they're moving everybody down to the pinnacle level, basically, and to the bowl.
Yeah,
I know there was a lot of reaction to it, like negative, like the seats are going to be higher, the prices are going to be higher. Am I correct in saying that they've slashed the prices of those lower level seats too?
Yeah. They're going to, the word they used in the official press release, I believe, is readjust, which means they're going to lower the ticket prices to make up for the Shelby County sales tax now being in effect. Pretty much what they're doing is they are asking fans to take on the 9.75% sales tax, put on by Shelby County in both ticket sales and parking. And that is, to the fans' credit, going to raise prices significantly. I mean, I'm not going to get, we don't need to get into this part, but right. There's things going on with the economy right now on a broad scale that are going to raise prices across the board for everybody. And that, combined with the changes that are going to be coming up with revenue sharing, that's, I think, why you're seeing these changes and these adjustments from the athletic department come into play. Overall, I honestly do think it's a pretty decent idea because you are putting on an extra tax onto the fans, and that's far from ideal for a lot of Memphians. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, Memphis does need, its games to look better from an attendance perspective on TV. And I know that's not exactly a big, a big talking point for a lot of people right now. Right. But it is important in a sense to turn on the television and see the lower level decked out at FedEx Forum. It is important in Memphis's eyes to see that. So I think that's part of it. And again, there are the ticket prices themselves are going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
So I think that could potentially draw people in a bit more as well.
There is some kind of financial implication for the athletic department that will help them save money, help them make more money, which can only help. Like, it only can help, right? Like, it's not a necessarily, there is a, the Tiger Athletic Department needs money to be able to compete, right, at every level. And so I think there's going to be a level where it's cheaper for fans. I think I saw Dr. Ed Scott say something like that. The changes in prices only impacted 115 people in a negative way. They've reached out to them. They've taught each 150 season ticket holder, 115 season ticket holder has been contacted, talked to. They've worked through it. They've gotten all of it taken care of. But I think I sound super uneducated about this because I am. I just know. I do trust that they're making the right decision for not only the university but also for the fans as well. So we'll see what it looks like. But I think those are the kind of things that I'm concerned about, is this next step of like the broader trajectory of athletics as a whole for University of Memphis. Is where are we headed to?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I think we're all in agreement that if we're talking specifically about the Tiger program,
right,
that I think the program is in a really good position. I want to bring this comment up because I've known Walker. I've known you for a long time. We've gone back and forth about Penny many times. I think Penny, as the head coach of this Tigers program, the ceiling is still, I think, a Final Four ceiling, maybe a national championship or national championship game ceiling, because I think Penny, his trajectory as a head coach in college basketball is going up year after year, especially as evidence of this season. So I think the state of the program of Tigers basketball under Penny Hardaway is in a very good position. I fully agree with you, Roman, that they're in that stage where they just got to fully break through. And, they're the glass ceiling's right there. They just got to punch through the glass ceiling. They're at that point in the program. And a discussion about how do you get more people in seats? Well, this on about Julian, we need to play Duke at home, bring in Blue Bloods for non-con. Yeah, that non-con stuff is all well and good. We've seen really high-profile non-con teams come to Memphis, and we've seen those crowds be incredibly electric. The issue is the conference games. It's like it's getting people to come down on a Tuesday night in the winter in Memphis to play UTSA. Play Rice. That's the problem. Memphis has scheduled their tail off in the non-con over the past few years.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. It's people wanting to come down to downtown Memphis from wherever they live. Like it's a long drive for a lot of people. It is. And it's hard to get up for like I said, a Tuesday night game against Rice. And so that's the problem.
25 minutes is not a long drive. Come on now.
Well, it might not be for you. It might be for some.
It's 45 minutes for me. So
it depends on. Yeah, I'm just saying we don't know someone's circumstance. We don't know what access, what car they have. It might might not be for you, but it could be for some, depending on what access to vehicles and what type of car they have, and the large. It all depends. So it could be a long drive for people. So my point is, it's just hard to get up for a game against Rice or get up for a game against UTSA. That's the issue. It's the in-conference stuff for me. But I'm with you that the state of the program is in a good state. So I think we can, and it was brought up before, the importance of this offseason, entering this offseason with the importance of the transfer portal, always trying to need to revamp the roster. Memphis, I know, is involved with a lot of guys in the transfer portal, a lot of people. Roman, do you have a list of guys who have either visited Memphis already or have plans to make a visit to Memphis? I think you do. Do you have that list?
Yeah, so the four guys who have actually already visited Memphis are Quante Berry, Tanner Toulson, Duncan Powell, and
Quincy Ballard.
Quincy Ballard has not visited Memphis. No, he's not.
Oh, has he not? Okay, I thought it was planned. I think it's planned, right?
And Chris Bell, the forward from Syracuse.
There it is.
Those are the four guys who have visited Memphis. JaMichael Stillwell is the Milwaukee forward, is someone that I've confirmed that they are planning a visit for. Now, you're seeing a lot of reports come out. Memphis is planning to have a visit with this person. They're planning. We've seen a lot of people that are saying, oh, they're planning to have a visit with Memphis. And a couple of guys that we've seen this with, Amari Monroe, for example, the visit has never come. Amari Monroe first bounced Memphis out of his final 6 schools list, and then it actually announced today that he's going to be returning to Quinnipiac. So
crazy.
What? Yeah.
That feels like a Yaxel Lindenborg type situation where everybody said he's leaving. He's going to go somewhere else. Memphis was in with him, and then he decided to go back to UAB. My only concern is for him is are they giving him like UAB did with Yaxel 75% of their NIL budget for a year, right? Like just to pay him to come back. Like that could potentially be the case there. But yeah, he's a player that I think most Tiger fans, when they saw that he was being looked at and heavily recruited by Memphis, was like, wow, that's the kind of guy that we would love to have, that size. I guess my question for both of you guys is based on like who we've seen the Tigers involved with in the transfer portal. It's pretty clear what Penny is targeting, right? Like it's that what we talked about, in the last show that we did, just missing that size at the wings, right? That big 6'7", 6'8", 200+ pound defender. And somebody who's a rebounder, defender, and an efficient scoring person. He's targeting all of those guys, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and forgot to mention this a second ago. Duncan Powell visited Memphis earlier this week. He committed to Georgetown today, so yeah, take him off the board as well. I think one thing that Memphis fans need to be careful about when it comes to being concerned about how the portal is going so far. One thing that I think a lot of Memphis fans need to understand is that PJ Haggerty and his potential return is playing a massive factor into what Memphis is trying to do with the portal right now. Yeah. Based off of conversations I've had, they're essentially attempting to rebuild the roster around him and trying to cater that to his skill set. And if PJ doesn't return, that could potentially completely flip Memphis's plan in the portal. So I think it's very possible that we see a PJ Haggerty decision, regardless of what it is. I think it is somewhat possible. I'm not guaranteeing this, but I think it is possible that we see a PJ Haggerty decision one way or the other before we see a commitment to Memphis from the portal. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I do think that is a pretty big possibility.
So that's a big question, Roman. Yeah. What is, lots of reports, people are, what is the chance? Where would you put Memphis in terms of the PJ Haggerty situation, right? Like everybody knows Blue Bloods have been tampering with him all year, coming after him. Power 5 schools have been coming after him. Does Memphis have a shot to keep him?
I mean, I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm not dumb enough to do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I can't put a number on it.
We got asked that in the Discord last night, Francis. Give us a percentage. No. Roman, Kenny, give us a percentage. And I was like, hell no. I'm not doing that.
I ain't going to put a number on it, but I will say that based off of everything I've heard about the situation, all the indications that I've gotten, I would be fairly surprised if PJ Haggerty is not a Memphis Tiger next season. Considering, the situation that he's going to be walking into at Memphis, the compensation that Memphis will be able to hand him, not just with its own resources, but Memphis will be getting a lot of outside help. I can flash flood warning. Sorry about that, but
you're good.
Memphis, not on considering its own resources and the outside help that I'm fairly confident that it will be getting in terms of getting PJ Haggerty the whatever compensation that he needs there. I'd be surprised if he's not back. I think Memphis is just the better or the best overall situation for him, and I think that his camp knows that. So
I want to put it this. I want to put it this way, and just to kind of give some historical context to the kind of, I think, the kind of people that we're dealing with when it comes to PJ Haggerty's camp, the people that are involved with him. PJ Haggerty is the kind of person that is, and you can tell this based off of the way that he's handled even last year's transfer portal process. He got into the transfer portal and was quite literally the first, I think 365 days ago today, he announced his commitment to the University of Memphis. He was Memphis's first.
Yeah, he committed on April 4th, so 366.
366. So yes, yesterday was 365. There is PJ Haggerty came into that process knowing what he wanted, knowing who he wanted to play, like what kind of a system he wanted to play in, was recruited by Memphis and committed very quickly. The fact that we have not heard a word from PJ Haggerty about him entering the transfer portal, declaring for the NBA draft with the option to come back to school, tells me his silence, the lack of moves, tells me more than him coming out and saying one way or the other, right? Like the speculation is all out there, right? Like the speculation of what he's going to do is out there, but it's the fact that he's still here, hasn't made a specific leap or jump to enter the transfer portal or to enter into the NBA draft with the option to come back. Tells me a lot about it because of what we know about PJ and the people that are directly related to his NIL negotiations, the people that are involved in his decision making. There are a lot of people that claim to be in PJ's camp, talking for PJ.
Yeah, directly involved. Like you put it, directly involved is a perfect way to put it.
Right. There are a lot of people that claim to be directly involved in PJ's process that are not involved in PJ's process. Those people are going to talk to everybody about what's expected and the NIL projections of what's to be expected, like what he's asking for. Unless you hear it from two people, don't pay attention to it. One of those is PJ, and the other is someone very closely related to PJ. If you're not hearing it from those two, pay no attention to it, because there are people that have access to grind about Memphis, about Penny Hardaway, about former players that used to play at Memphis that they represented, that believe that they have that are going to make phone calls and talk to people and say, I am involved because I'm from Houston, where PJ Haggerty is from. They're not involved. And all they're trying to do is to secure a bag for themselves. That's what I'll say. So I don't know how else to say it other than just to say, allow this process to play itself out without Tiger fans having these ups and downs of like, well, this person said this. Kenny and Roman and Francis said this over at Tigers Live, but look at what this person said. Like this person said this. Well, I'm telling you right now, there are only, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's trending good or trending bad or the percentages or anything like that. But I'm just telling you, there are certain people that are claiming to be involved in that process that are not involved in that process. And so the situation will play itself out. And I am a believer. I am of the mindset, I'm in the same camp as Roman. I would be very surprised if PJ Haggerty is not a Tiger next year. I do believe PJ will probably at some point try to go through the process of an NBA draft situation where he'll talk to teams and get graded and things like that. The fact that he hasn't done that yet also kind of makes me go, well, maybe he's not going to do that. I don't know. I would feel like he would be doing that right now. But if he's playing college basketball next year, I am absolutely confident that it will be for the Memphis Tigers.
Yeah, well, I think that's music to every Memphis Tiger fan's ears to hear y'all make those statements, to be confident what y'all are saying. It's music to my ears as well. So, because I love PJ, obviously, we know how good he is. If he does return, and that leads to Memphis getting those 3-and-D athletic wing profile type guys to surround PJ with, I think that would put this roster in a even better position than they were entering this year because of just the more balanced roster that this team would have if they have a PJ Haggerty, if they're able to get the wings that that they have coming on visits to Memphis, and they get the necessary bigs to support those players as well. It's hard to do it's not hard. It's impossible to do a season preview for next year when we don't know who's on the team.
Yeah.
So that's not possible. It's all conjecture. Let's all hope that PJ does return and hope that Memphis builds the roster that we know they can build under Penny Hardaway. I do want to say that it was so interesting to see how obviously clear the type of profile of player that Memphis and Penny were targeting, how easily clear that was immediately. Like, it was pretty obvious that they're now going to go for 6'7", 6'8" wings who are athletic, who can rebound, who can drive, who can also hit a three and play defense. Like, Penny pretty much right off the jump was like, this is the type of player that I want for next season. And that was encouraging to me. It showed to me that he had a clear plan entering the transfer portal. And then also when you look back on the roster of last season, that was the glaring hole. I think Memphis defensively played overall really hard, really good defense, but it's also difficult to contest 3-point shots no matter if you communicate right or wrong. It's hard to contest shots if you're 6'2", if you're 6'3". It's just hard. And you're starting Colby Rogers at the 3, who's like 6'3.5", and he's with probably a negative wingspan. Probably. I don't know what Colby's wingspan is, but probably it's a negative wingspan.
You saying he's got the Desmond Bain problems?
No, maybe. But it's harder to. So look, I like the plan that is in place. Hopefully PJ does return and Memphis can fill out the roster in the way we know that Penny Hardaway can. Yeah. So as we look forward to next season, very briefly, again,
real quick, there's some questions that are being asked in the Connor one. Roman already talked through this. Do you guys see us getting a commitment soon? I agree with Roman. I would suspect it would not surprise me if we got a PJ Haggerty commitment or decision one way or the other before we get a commitment from the transfer portal. That would not surprise me.
Yeah, I'm not guaranteeing that because Memphis is, I would describe as potentially close with a few guys. There are a few guys that I could easily see Memphis taking on before PJ Haggerty makes his decision. But I think probably the likely scenario is that we do see a PJ Haggerty decision before a commitment from the transfer portal. Wayne Kelly is asking, I think, a very big question as well that we probably need to address before we get out of here as well. Is there any news on Dane Danger? Any chance he's back as a Tiger? What I can say about that is that Memphis and Dane Danger are actively attempting to secure a waiver for him to return next season. They are kind of like laying their ducks in a row to try to get that process started. Nothing has been submitted to the NCAA as of now, but be assured, rest assured that process will begin at some point. They're starting to, again, just prepare themselves to officially submit whatever it is they want to submit for that. And there is, I would actually say, a relative level of optimism on Memphis' side that it could potentially happen for them. Now, again, these
same thing happened with DeAndre, right?
These situations are always tricky. They are always tricky. And you bring up DeAndre Kenny. In DeAndre's case, I'd actually say that he probably had a better case than Dane does.
I agree.
Just realistically speaking. But also, we're in a different era of college athletics, even only a couple of years later, where the NCAA is about to get probably torn to shreds by this settlement. And they keep on losing in court, and they don't want to ruffle feathers and things like that. Maybe they'll just bend over backwards and just give Dane this waiver. But Dane did not have like a medical redshirt season or anything like that. Right. The season he's attempting to get back is a season where he played 3 games and then opted to leave Baylor and transfer to Illinois in the middle of the season. Typically, that's not going to get you a waiver. It's just not. Typically, that season is going to count against you. The NCAA would pretty much be breaking its own rules by giving Dane Danger an additional waiver to return next season. But
they've been getting smoked in court lately.
Yeah,
and
killed.
so
yeah, maybe that just doesn't matter. Maybe that just doesn't matter.
Francis, let me ask you a question.
The NCAA is so inconsistent, so unpredictable that I don't know if I can really make a call on how this is going to go. I will say that Memphis they are heavily relying on it happening. They are heavily relying on it happening. I would be somewhat concerned about the big situation if it doesn't happen for Dane, or if Dane does get the waiver and then enters the transfer portal, which is a possibility.
That would be crazy. Anyway,
Francis, you're a lawyer. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the NCAA, like, how real of a factor is it that the NCAA's losses that they've experienced in court so much? I mean, they have been getting smoked in court. Does it change? Like, could you see an entity like the NCAA saying, you know what, bro? Like, please don't take us to court. Like, here's your extra year. Whatever, bro. Go play. What do you think?
Look, again, as Roman said, as y'all have said, they've been absolutely getting decimated. In every single legal thing that's happened in NCAA, they've been getting decimated. It would be a miracle still if it happened, if Dane were to get that extra year. But look, man, my guess is still as good as yours. No matter what happens with Dane Danger, my guess is as good as y'all's. Because Roman, I think you're absolutely right, man. They would be breaking pretty much their own rules, setting a brand new precedent, like kind of as they go out the door, as the NCAA gets basically torn apart. It's like, screw it, whatever. Let's just give Dane the extra year because he asked for it, and whatever. I think I would be still very shocked if it happened.
Aren't they talking,
shocked.
Francis? Aren't they talking about giving automatically a 6th year to get 5? Isn't that what haven't they had those discussions?
I think I've heard that somewhere. I don't know specifics in that regard. I think I've heard that somewhere, but I'm the wrong guy to ask if there's any legs to that movie.
If they do that this year, if they do that this summer, Tyrese will be back. Colby will be back. No, I'm joking. That'll change everything.
Oh man,
yeah.
Open up the can of worms of what the NCAA will look like in about 2-3 years. That's a different can. We could talk about it for like another hour.
I got one more transfer portal topic I want us to discuss, and I want us to stay on this. We've been on for 58 minutes. I want us to stay on this for just a few. I need to hear y'all's thoughts. Reports came out a couple of weeks ago that Penny Hardaway heard the bat signal from the Pivot podcast with our good friend.
What he's going to ask us about.
Our good friend Mikey Williams. Mikey Williams went on the Pivot podcast.
Have I lost both of them?
Sent out, huh?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're good. Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Sent out the bat signal from the Pivot podcast talking about how much he loved Penny Hardaway, wanted to play for Penny Hardaway. And then a few days later, into the transfer portal, reports came out that Penny and Mikey were in contact with each other. I do want to say this. Contact doesn't mean recruitment. Contact doesn't mean interest. Contact doesn't mean any of that. But I wanted to ask you, like, I know Memphis fans freaked out, good and bad, positive and negative, about the potential of a reunion between Penny Hardaway and Mikey Williams. What are y'all's thoughts? Like, what would y'all, and let's do this quickly, but what are y'all's thoughts on a potential Mikey Williams reunion?
Okay, so first off, I can confirm that contact has been made. I've been, hesitant to, publicly discuss it for one reason or another, but regardless, that contact has been made. I can confirm that. Now, for me, it's kind of a weird thing to, fully process, if you will. For like, why would Memphis even be entertaining this in any way, shape, or form? Why would Penny Hardaway be entertaining this in any way, shape, or form? Because all of Mikey Williams's, legal situation happened while he was committed to play for the University of Memphis. Every single thing. I mean, we have to remember that the only reason Mikey Williams is not a convicted felon right now because it is the courts gave him an opportunity to drop the one felony charge. He was charged with 9 felonies initially from his incident. He was charged with 9 felonies. And eventually, after months of court rulings and court battles or whatever, eventually they ended up settling, okay, you have one felony. You have one felony. But if you do community service and anger management courses and gun safety courses, we can get that dropped down to a misdemeanor. And that's ultimately what has happened. Mikey Williams' charge for, I believe, was, making threats with a firearm. That has been dropped from a felony to a misdemeanor. So that is the only reason Mikey Williams is not a convicted felon right now. We have to remember that. And also, the guy is barred from owning a firearm for the next 10 years. This is... This stuff is not... It's not good. It's red flags all over the place, even more than a year removed from all these situations. I just don't think it's a good idea logistically for Memphis to bring in someone with the amount of baggage that there is connected between Mikey Williams and Memphis. I'm not saying that Mikey Williams doesn't deserve second chances. He doesn't deserve opportunities to show that that's not who he is and that kind of thing. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve that opportunity because he does. But I just don't think that opportunity needs to come at the University of Memphis based off of circumstances.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly well said. I couldn't agree with you more. So all that aside, just basketball wise, no, I'm good. I don't want Mikey Williams is even a basketball player. Forget the baggage that he would come to Memphis with. Just as a straight up hooper, pass. I'm good. I'm good. I recognize the hype he had. And I also recognize all the off the court things that probably have impacted and stunted his growth as a basketball player. But just even looking at what he did for UCF last year, I'm good. I don't think he would, if PJ came back, I don't think he would fit well with PJ at all. If PJ doesn't come back and then now Mikey comes in and he's, for whatever reason, your starting point guard, I don't want that at all either. So besides all the baggage stuff that Roman said very, very well, basketball wise, pass. I'm all right. I don't really want to have him as a basketball player on the University of Memphis. So yeah, that's how I feel about the Mikey thing.
Yeah, I'll wrap my thoughts up quickly, but I don't have what I think is what I would love for the conversation to be, and I agree with you. I agree with everything Roman said. There is baggage there that has to be dealt with, right? That has to be thought and considered. I do think in a lot of ways, Mikey has earned the right, and I think Penny Hardaway has earned the right to judge his involvement at the University of Memphis based off the basketball and not about the past drama, right? I think that there is, while acknowledging that drama is there, that past is there, we didn't hear a peep out of Mikey at UCF all year.
Sure.
Just played, just hooped, just went out there when he was not hurt. He went out and played, didn't play very well. He wasn't great. He wasn't a good player for that team. And so for me, the question is, am I cool with that conversation happening? Absolutely. Because I think it's okay to have that conversation and to determine whether or not Mikey Williams is a fit for Memphis off of the basketball tip and not just the drama tip, right? We've talked about the drama stuff, and that is a massive part of his story. But at this point, how long does he need to have to be able to say, hey, I've moved past that. I've served my time, if you will. I've done all the things that are required of me. Now let me move on and play basketball where I could be used and developed properly. If that's Memphis, okay. If it's not Memphis, that's fine. I honestly think in a lot of ways, Penny has earned the right to say, Mikey, I care about you. I want to have this discussion with you, but you're not good enough to play for us this year. right? Like that's the development of the conversation that I want to see happen. Not necessarily we're not going to allow you to play for this team because of the past drama. I think that there is a basketball related conversation that needs to happen there. And I firmly believe at this point, Memphis is over recruiting him, if that makes sense. The talent level that they're recruiting is a higher talent level than Mikey Williams. Like you don't take him based on like with the talent that they're trying to bring in. I don't think Mikey Williams fits. And so, but I appreciate the fact that we can have that conversation, that we give Penny Hardaway the lenience to have that conversation about basketball and not just about shooting it down because of the past drama. That's my only take on the whole situation.
The guy allegedly fired a gun into a car filled with 6 people while he was committed to your program. That guy can never return. I hate to put it that way, but that guy can never return to your program. He allegedly fired a gun at a car full of 6 people. If that gun hits one person, if one person in that gets shot, this entire situation changes. We have to think about that.
A lot of ifs and buts,
candies and nuts. At a car, allegedly full of people with the intent to hurt somebody. Like that can't just be thrown away.
I understand that.
He was accused of doing that, and there was a lot of evidence that he might have done it. Well, and we can't just throw that away.
I understand that.
That can't just go away after a year. That just can't. Again, he deserves an opportunity to bounce back, but that just can't come at Memphis, I think. I think it would bring too much baggage, too much controversy. It would be the overarching story in a negative way. I think it could end up being a massive distraction. There's just too many potential risks with that for me to say it's a good idea on Memphis' part.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have the judicial system that we have, right? Is that it's been adjudicated. It's easy to sit there and say, like, this is what could have happened or allegedly happened, and I agree with you. But those things have been adjudicated, and he has done what he's needed to do to get to be at the point where he can play Division I college basketball again. And so, yes, I understand the optics, the drama, whatever. But I just, at this point, it's like, how long does a situation, how long does that need to hang over his head when it's been adjudicated and he's done what he's needed to do to like get it down to where it is, to a misdemeanor, and it's off his record after a year? I understand, Roman.
My point is that it's always going to hang over. It's always going to hang over his head at Memphis specifically. At other places, it doesn't have to. I think at other places, at other schools, he can go there with a clean slate and prove himself to be a valuable Division I college basketball player. But that's always going to hang over his head here at Memphis, specifically for one reason or another. So Mikey Williams in Memphis, I think is a bad idea. Mikey Williams and being a D1 college basketball player, I think that can still happen at plenty of other schools, but it just can't happen at Memphis for reasons I've already said.
Yeah.
Look, I hear both sides of what y'all are saying. I think both of y'all make really good points. As I said, from my position, just purely basketball wise, I don't want him on the basketball team. Just as a basketball player, I don't think he's good enough to play for the Memphis Tigers at the level that we want Memphis to play at. I don't think it's
a very real possibility. Yep.
Yeah, and so regardless of the baggage, regardless of all that, just pure basketball, as we talk about it from a purely basketball standpoint, I just don't think he's good enough to play for the Memphis Tigers at the level that we expect the Memphis Tigers to play basketball at. So that's it. That's where I come from.
It'll hang over his head unless he balls out and gets the Tigers. 100%.
There'd be some forgiveness there for sure. Yeah,
100%. Be like, what are you talking about? That was a year ago.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Final Four, baby, hang the banner.
Yeah, there are levels. There are many levels to that discussion. There are many levels to the John Morant discussion. But
yes.
I'm not going to get into that. We're not into it on Twitter enough. But there
all
there
John
are many
Morant's ever
levels
done is put up some stupid signs on social media.
Well, look, Mikey has at least been convicted. At least I'm not saying this as some demeaning thing. He's been convicted of crimes, and he was found. He pled guilty to felony charges. Like those are very different to whatever has happened with Ja. But that's I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole. I've gotten into arguments for the past 24 hours. I'm not gonna do that.
The national narrative, the way people, I'm sorry, I'll stop. But the national narrative, the making up of stories of what Ja Morant has done is wild, bro. Wild. He's been convicted of major gun crimes. Major gun crimes?
No.
What are you talking
He hasn't even
about?
been charged of anything. And you can be charged of eating a ham sandwich. That's what my criminal professor used to say all the time. You can be charged of literally anything. But that's just you being found guilty of it. That's totally different. You can be charged of whatever you want to be charged of.
Yeah.
But like he hasn't even been charged. Sorry, I'm gonna stop. That's all. I'm done here. I'm done. I know we wanted to talk about goals for next season, but I think it's a little tough to do so now that because we don't know what this roster will look like. Obviously, we want the Tigers to make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. I think that is a huge goal for the team. I would love to see less turnovers, please. Just stop Mike 333rd in the country. That's so bad. Please just take care of the basketball. But it's hard for me to have like real goals for next season since we just don't know what this team will look like. But how do y'all feel? Do y'all have substantial goals for next year?
Yeah, get to the second weekend. Find a way to get to the second weekend, right? I think that's the standard goal. You've put yourself in position to do exactly that. Francis, with your point on the turnovers, I mean, now obviously there is a path for the turnovers to go down in Memphis and maybe not be towards the very bottom of the country.
Yeah.
In the category, but you're never going to see Memphis be like a top 10 team in like turnover assist ratio.
Of course.
They would have to fundamentally change the way they play for that to happen.
I know.
Fundamentally change everything about the way they play for that to happen. Like turnovers are always going to be a part of Penny Hardaway's Memphis basketball teams. It's just always going to be a thing.
All I'm asking for is top 150 in the country. That's all I'm asking. Top 150. That's it.
We're setting our standards.
That might even be too
medium.
high.
Yeah.
Like that's all I ask. Not 333rd and 298th. That's not what I want.
You know what's funny? There were 666 people that graduated my high school senior class from Collierville High School in 1999. And I was ranked 333rd in GPA in that class. That's all. Listen, just aim medium, aim average, baby.
Bang
just
average.
Be average.
Be bang average. Turn the ball over.
That's all we want.
Good to go ahead,
One place where they don't need to be average is the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Yes.
This has been the last 2-3 seasons, especially the last 2 seasons. They have been a better offensive team than defensive team. I think that needs to change. Just being honest there. Obviously, you want them to be as good offensively as they can be, but I would say that Memphis basketball is at its highest potential. Yeah, it's starting to turn up outside, but I think that Memphis basketball overall is at its highest potential when they are an elite defensive unit. And we've seen them reach that point multiple times in the Penny Hardaway era.
Yep.
Now, the defensive talent on those teams, the 2020 team, the 2021 team, 2022 team, the defensive talent on those teams was supreme. You had Lester Quinones, who was a phenomenal perimeter defender. You had Jalen Duren, who would block shots over the plate. Musa Cisse, freshman Musa Cisse, was an exceptional defender. Precious Achua was great in the 1920 season on both ends of the floor. So it's hard to find those kind of defensive talents that can make you an elite defensive unit, but I think Memphis needs to find a way to get back to that if they want to give themselves the best opportunity possible. Because if they can find a way to combine the kind of offense that they've been putting up the last 2 years with the elite defense that we've seen Penny Hardaway teams have in the past, that's where I think you can find yourself in a Sweet 16, Elite 8, maybe even Final Four type ceiling.
I hear you. Yep. Kenny?
For me, the expectation is I think the basketball is going to take care of itself. I think everything that both of you guys have said is on point. I genuinely want to see I have an expectation that, as I said, kind of what are my concerns? I want to see the athletic department like really, and I'm trying to not be mean, but I want to see them come up with a solid like structure of just communicate a solid structure, solid plan of how to best utilize the name and brand of Penny Hardaway and Memphis Tiger basketball and put the basketball program in a position to succeed, right? Like that's whether it's because we can sit here. I have no doubt that Penny Hardaway will be able to coach up whoever is on this team next year. I have no doubt for the next couple of years, however long he's here. My question is can the Tigers stay competitive in this new era of college sports?
No.
And you have to stay competitive in regards to the NIL portion. You have to stay competitive in regards to conference realignment. You have to stay competitive in those things. Can the Tiger Athletic Department keep the Tiger sports athletics competitive in those markets? And I have concerns about that. I want to see that change. I want to see that I want to see some success in that area. So the basketball, I will wholeheartedly agree with everything that both of you guys have said. On my end, the other side of it, I'll say I want to see the Tiger Athletic Department set these programs up for success, right? And capitalize on the momentum that Ryan Silverfield and Penny Hardaway have brought to this Tiger athletic department. And I want to see Tiger fans get actively re-engaged as much as possible, whatever that looks like. That's what I want to see. So those are my two biggest question marks that I have about the future of Tiger athletics is, are they going to be competitive in this new era, and will Tiger fans actively re-engage? That's what I want to see happen.
Cool. Yeah. Well, very well said, Kenny. Very well said, Roman, as always. As we hear the rain come down,
bro,
in the city of Memphis,
God was telling Roman, that ain't gonna happen. No, just
the defense is gonna suck.
No, just
no.
Assists will be at 15 next year.
I do want to say, like, those players that you mentioned, Roman, especially like the wing players you mentioned as well. I think that's a profile that Penny is going for in this portal, and I hope if they are able to get those types of guys, that'll elevate the defensive ceiling of the Memphis Tigers next season. But look, y'all, we don't even know what this roster is going to look like yet. So let's reserve judgment on full anticipation of real expectations for next season until we know what this roster will look like. And I think this is a good time to just put a bow on the 2024-2025 season. Everyone who's tuned into Tigers Live this year, everybody who's in the comments who've always showed love to all of us, even the ones in the comments who haven't showed love to all of us, but have been there and have been active. I really thank y'all to everybody. This show is fantastic to do with Roman, with Kenny, to all the special guests that have come on the show this year. Thank y'all to you as well. This was great. And now I think we can now just officially close this book of the 2024-2025 Memphis Tigers men's basketball season and look ahead and just see what goes on for next season. But again, just a big thank you to everybody who's tuned into Tigers Live, who's rocked with us from the beginning. If you're watching on Twitter, be sure to move to YouTube, like the show, subscribe to Bluff City Media. Just because Tigers Live is over does not mean that Bluff City Media doesn't have just a ton of awesome content being put out on a daily basis. Grizz 901 after every Memphis Grizzlies post-game show. All the amazing shows that are put up by Bluff City Media as well that come out on a daily basis. So you don't want to miss them. Subscribe to Bluff City Media. Hit the notification bell. Turn that on so you get alerted every time a new show comes out, new video comes out on Bluff City Media. You can find me on Twitter at Slugga Sports, SLUGGA Sports. Find Roman Cleary, the beat writer for the Memphis Tigers. Follow him. If you're a Memphis Tigers fan, follow Roman to stay up to date with everything that's happening with this program. All the transfer portal stuff, whatever breaking news that will happen, not even may, will happen. Follow Roman at ROA Clear. He's the man. He's amazing at what he does. Y'all find Kenny Stubblefield at Kenny_BCM and find him on basically every other show that Bluff City Media.
I'm trying to.
It's not a bad thing at all. It's not a bad thing at all. But yeah, y'all follow Kenny if you're not already. Go ahead, please.
I have one more thing to say before we close this out. Man,
Yeah.
Bluff City Media, we are going on our 3rd year of being around, right? Bluff City Media was started out of this brain here of trying to fill a gap for Tiger athletics, Tiger sports coverage, the city of Memphis sports coverage. We have the Grizzlies. We cover everything basically. 3 years ago, we started this. And I understand like the where media is headed in terms of the digital component of things, right? And that's what I felt like was missing especially when it comes to Tiger athletic coverage was you can read and you can respond on Twitter, but what about these shows? What about podcasts that are specifically designed to cover Tiger athletics? We are a small business. We have been around for 3 years. I would put our content, our digital content that we put up every single day, multiple pieces, new pieces of content. I would put our content up against anybody in the city. I think we are on the cutting edge of what new media looks like. But we are a small business. And so I know there have been hundreds of thousands of people that have tuned in to Tigers Live this season. Thanks to the hard work of Francis and Roman and all the special guests that have come on. This show is amazing. And I love what this show is. But we are a small business and we understand what it means to grow a small business, right? To like say, hey, to put our nose to the grindstone and try to figure out how to make this work. We're all Memphians here, even though some of us have transplanted to Paradise. Francis Carlotta is a Memphian through and through. Roman
always
is a Memphian through and through. He is a University of Memphis student. I am from Memphis. We are all here. Most of us are here. I want to challenge. Like, I know that there are some people that are in this chat that have watched this show that are small business owners in the city of Memphis that say, man, listen, y'all don't understand the grind of what we do as small businesses. We understand it. We understand it. There are other media entities that don't understand the grind of building a small business. We want to help, right? Like, we want to help you, small business in the city of Memphis, outside in the Mid-South area. If we have built, one of the things we've done very well is we have built an audience of people who listens to us, millions upon millions of engagements, of listens, of views every single month from the content that we put out. And so what we want to do is we want to partner with you, small business in the city of Memphis, to say, how can we leverage what we've built over these 3 years of engagement, of audience, of fan base, of people that listen to the things that we do? How can we help leverage our audience, our fan base, our platform to help your small business? And so listen, hit me up. Kenny_BCM on Twitter, Kenny Stubblefield at gmail.com. We have sponsorship deals, marketing strategies, marketing packs that we have very detailedly put together to help small businesses grow, to leverage our platform. And so hit me up. I want to talk to you. We will make something work. We want to partner with you to help you grow, to help us grow, to continue to be able to put the content out that you guys enjoy so clearly. Hit me up. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Our packages, our decks are completely, they are very affordable. But we want to partner with you because we understand the grind of being a small business in the city of Memphis. And so hit me up, Kenny Stubblefield at gmail.com or on Twitter, Kenny_BCM. Let's have conversations. But I want to shout out to you, Francis. You've done an amazing job for your second season of Tigers Live, dude. You are the man. When we started this show, it was immediate. The only person I could think of hosting this show was you. And so I'm glad to have you on board with us. And you deserve a well-earned break from the show. We'll be back. We will be back.
We will 1000% be back, especially once we get, some real movement with this team. and all that. I know we will. No question about that. Quickly, I want to say, since I've been with Bluff City Media, the amount of growth this company that I've seen is so high. I know the amount of people who have. I knew the amount of subscriber growth that we've had in just this season alone of Tiger basketball, of sports. Awesome, just an incredible amount of growth, and so I echo everything that Kenny said wholeheartedly. So, look, y'all, again, thank y'all so much. Much love to you, Roman, to you, Kenny, to everybody who's tuned into Tigers Live. We'll see y'all hopefully sometime the next couple months to talk about any offseason moves. Definitely we'll preview the year once we get to that point later in 2025. But again, from me, from Kenny, for Roman, thank y'all for tuning into Tigers Live this year, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.